All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren, and today I'm going to be taking you guys through a presentation on a lifestyle book that I found really helpful. So I will just share my screen and we will get started. All right. So the book this presentation is based on is called Food as Medicine Every Day. Here it is on the left here. And on the right are the two authors, Julie Briley and Courtney Jackson. They are both naturopathic physicians and co-founders of the Food as Medicine Institute at the National College of Natural Medicine in Portland, Oregon. And naturopathic doctors are trained to diagnose and treat chronic health conditions from infancy through adulthood. They may also provide holistic medical treatment. And the difference between naturopathic doctors and regular doctors is that NDs don't rely on prescription medications. They focus on the person as a whole. So they look at nutrition, lifestyle counseling, and all a person's everyday lifestyle habits. And both women also work at private practices. So the topics that we're going to go over today are the standard American diet, nourishing ourselves with the macronutrients, fats, carbs, and proteins, reading food labels, a whole foods plant-based diet, strategies for digestion, healthy habits, and then finally we'll talk about eating on the go and grocery shopping. And at the end of today, the goals are for you to learn how to move away from the standard American diet, which we'll talk about in a second, to understand the power of food as medicine and, how food is part of our solution, and how to start making these lifestyle changes today. So, to get started, we were going to talk about the standard American diet and why it just will not do. So, what is the standard American diet? It is exactly what comes to mind when you think of Americanized food. It is calorie rich, it is nutrient poor, it is highly processed and low in those whole foods. It's a result of lack of access and lack of education. As you can see, it lacks in vegetables, especially those dark leafy greens, which we'll talk about a lot today. Those are spinach and kale and collards. It can lead to chronic disease and chronic inflammation. It's high in added sugars and preservatives, and it is the result of industrialization of foods in the late 1800s. So what I mean by that is that in the late 1800s, more people were moving into the cities from the countries, and they were distancing themselves from their food. And as a consequence, there was a shift away from those whole low processed foods and a shift towards the highly processed foods that we see today. Why the standard American diet cannot continue? The CDC reports that non-communicable diseases, which are cancers, heart disease, diabetes, these diseases are now the major cause of death and disability worldwide. As of 2020, these diseases account for 7 out of every 10 deaths in the world. And the principal causes of premature death from non-communicable diseases are tobacco use, alcohol consumption, physical activity, and poor diet, which are all modifiable lifestyle habits. And just a little fun, but also unfortunate fact is that 52% of Americans said it was easier to do their income tax returns than it was to figure out how to eat healthy. So that is sad. So to learn how to eat in a more healthy way, first we're going to go over nourishing ourselves with fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. And we'll start off with fats. The subject of fats is controversial in our diets. However, healthy fat is an essential nutrient to include in any diet. The best kinds of fats that you can eat are less processed and they remain closer to their natural form. The body digests fat more slowly than proteins or carbs, so it can give you long-term energy and help you feel more satisfied after a meal. Natural sources of fats come from plants, which we will talk about, and these are those healthy fats that are good from us. And there's two types of fats, saturated and unsaturated. And the difference between these is just their molecular structure. So first we have on the left here, unsaturated fats. And as you can see, they help the body create and balance a healthy level of inflammation. And examples of these fats are olives, avocados, peanuts, sesame seeds, and these are the monounsaturated fats. We also have polyunsaturated fats, and these are referred to as essential because the body cannot make them naturally. The examples of these polyunsaturated fats are omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. And omega-3 fatty acids reduce inflammation, while omega-6 fatty acids promote inflammation. So obviously you want to have more omega-3s and less omega-6s. A healthy ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 would be 4:1. However, Americans typically consume way more than this, and the ratio is more 16:1 or 20:1. So how to get more omega-3s in your diet is flax seeds, chia seeds, and walnuts, and foods that are high in omega-6 fatty acids, which we should try to avoid or limit, are those oils. So corn oil, soybean oil, and safflower oil. On the other side here, we have the saturated fats. These fats can lead to cardiovascular disease, inflammation, high cholesterol, and we got to try to avoid or limit them. Animal sources of saturated fats are dairy products such as milk, cheese, and butter, bacon, sausage, poultry, and eggs. And then plant sources are coconut oil, chocolate, and palm oil. While you want to avoid or limit these fats, there is a fat that you need to completely avoid, and that is trans fats, otherwise known as partially hydrogenated oils. That's a term that you're going to want to remember. Trans fats were created to give food a longer shelf life, to keep it from going bad. It's used a lot in the fast food industry to fry, stabilize packaged foods such as the fries in this picture. So a lot of frozen packaged food includes trans fat. This kind of fat increases inflammation in the body and is strongly linked to heart disease and unhealthy changes in the brain. It should be completely avoided. The American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association, they both agree that trans fat should not be in the diet. And some sources are margarine, French fries, and most other fried foods and packaged baked goods. So make sure you keep an eye out for partially hydrogenated oils. The bottom line with fats is that eating excess fat makes it much harder to reach and maintain a healthy body composition. However, eating healthy, low processed fat is really good for your diet. And fat provides slow fuel for your day and will help keep you fuller for much longer. All right, now we are going to move on to carbohydrates. So there are a lot of benefits of carbs, and it's important to navigate your carbohydrates well. These benefits include energy for the brain from glucose, fuel storage in the form of glycogen. They're sources of phytonutrients, and phytonutrients are chemicals produced by plants that have anti-inflammatory benefits. So they reduce inflammation. And also, that sense of satiety, fullness, and balanced cholesterol. There are two kinds of carbs, which we will go over: complex carbs and simple carbs. And like it says here, it is important to note that starches, fiber, and sugar all refer to carbohydrates. It is important to navigate carbs well because choosing poorly can lead to weight gain, insulin resistance, heart disease, inflammation, and decreased immune function. So we are going to go over the two types of carbs. First, we have complex carbs. Examples of these are legumes, beans, nuts, seeds, vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. As you can see, these have more positive effects on the body. They provide slow energy for your body and brain, and they include fiber, which we'll talk about more in depth. And fiber helps the body remove waste and excess cholesterol. And complex carbs also provide important fuel to sustain friendly bacteria in the gut. On the other hand, we have simple carbohydrates. These are your sugary fruit juices, teas, energy drinks, honey, syrup, and then white pasta and white bread. These are that quick, sugary taste in your body, in your brain. They're sweet. However, excess of these can lead to cavities, weight gain, and diabetes. Fiber is a crucial component to include in a more plant-based diet. It's an indigestible complex carb, and it has so many benefits. Excellent sources of fiber include whole fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, nuts, seeds, and whole grain. So first we have soluble fiber, and this attracts water, which creates bulk in your gut, and it slows down digestion, which makes you feel more full. And as you can see, there's plenty of examples of these, such as apples, pears, oatmeals, beans, lentils, all that good stuff. There's also insoluble fiber, which helps with bowel movement, prevents constipation, and this is whole grains and dark leafy greens, so spinach and kale. Fiber also helps control blood sugar levels. It balances your blood glucose and reduces the risk of several chronic diseases. In addition, an added benefit is that it helps reduce the number of calories we eat in a day. If we're eating more fiber, more fruits, more vegetables, we're going to naturally be eating lower calorie foods. So you will see that you'll enter into a caloric deficit, which is great if you want to try and lose weight. So another important part of carbohydrates are whole grains. Whole grains are barley, brown rice, oats, whole corn, quinoa. And how much do we need? 35 to 50 grams per day is what's recommended. So as you can see this image right here, I just want to explain for a moment. There's 3 parts to a whole grain. First, you have the bran, which is the protective outer layer of the grain, and it is an excellent source of dietary fiber. It provides B vitamins and minerals like iron, incredibly important. We also have the germ, which provides omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids and vitamin E, and as you can see as well, some B vitamins and iron. Finally, we have the endosperm, which is the last part, and it includes those starches, proteins. It's the rich in carbohydrate part of the whole grain. What manufacturers do is to create refined grains, they remove the bran and the germ, and they leave just the starchy endosperm. And as you can see, if they take away the bran and the germ, they're taking away all the nutrients that go along with it. So we want to try and get these whole grains in our diet so that the bran and the germ are still included. How do I get more fiber in my diet? Some tips are to eat a whole piece of fruit instead of fruit juice, choose brown rice over white rice or whole grain bread over white bread, add vegetables in every plate, include fiber-rich meals and foods in every meal that you eat during the day, and start trying to incorporate beans into your diet as a substitute for animal protein. As you can see, there are so many food sources of fiber. In particular, there are so many plant food sources of fiber. I'm not going to go over all of these, but you feel free to pause the video and take a look at all the ways you can increase the fiber in your diet. All right, the last macronutrient we're going to go over is protein. And protein is another essential macronutrient, and it's made up of amino acids. Protein provides structure in the body in the form of connective tissue, bone, hair, and muscle. It controls every chemical reaction in the body through the formation of enzymes. It is a slow fuel source similar to fats and complex carbs. And diets low in protein can lead to fatigue, mood swings, difficulty building muscle, hormone imbalances. So you want to make sure that you're getting an adequate amount. However, you want to try and get as much protein as you can from plant sources, such as almonds, walnuts, chia seeds, beans, like I mentioned before, legumes, and whole grains. And try to avoid or limit the animal proteins, such as beef, pork, poultry, and fish and eggs and so on. How much protein do we need? The amount of protein a person needs can change based on age, health status, fitness goals, pregnancy. However, the standard recommendation is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight for adults. So a 150-pound individual would need about 55 grams of protein per day. If you're eating enough unprocessed food to reach and maintain a healthy weight, then you will get enough adequate protein in your diet without having to worry about it. A tip is to look for foods that are rich in protein instead of foods that will require consuming a large portion. So I will give you an example. So you can see that beans have 7 to 10 grams of protein, almond butter, almonds, broccoli, all sources that are high in protein. So you can eat these foods and reach your protein goals for the day. And we have talked about all the macronutrients, but we cannot forget about the micronutrients. And these are vitamins and minerals. But by eating a whole foods plant-based diet, you're naturally going to introduce rich sources of vitamins and minerals to your body. Unfortunately, highly processed foods often have these nutrients removed or altered. So as you can see, I have a short list of some of the vitamins and minerals here, and I won't go over every single one, but you can see that each of them, there's so many plant-based foods that you can eat to consume these nutrients. The first thing I want to point out is that you can get calcium from your vegetables and plant-based foods. A lot of people think you need to drink milk or eat a lot of dairy, but that's not true. You don't have to have any milk or any dairy. You can get all the calcium you need from plant-based foods. Additionally, check out how many vitamins and minerals that dark leafy greens provide. You can see that vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin E, vitamin K, and calcium all come from dark leafy greens. So it's really important to get those in your diet. So the next section of this presentation is going to be about reading food labels. In order to make the healthiest choices possible while shopping, skills and confidence in reading food labels cannot be understated. When most people look at packaging on a food item, they see maybe the number of calories, maybe the percentage of fat, maybe a label that says heart healthy or lowers cholesterol, but they don't really know what that means. Reading food labels is an acquired skill that takes practice, but it is well worth it. It's one of the easiest ways to start choosing healthier options. Unfortunately, food claims on the front of food packaging may have little or nothing to do with the actual nutrition in a food. Food companies can use manipulative and confusing language to sway your shopping habits. So we're going to go through some steps to reading food labels. This may seem like a lot, but just hang in there with me. The first step is to look at the ingredients. Don't even look at the nutrition facts yet. Go down to the ingredients on the package of food. Assess the following in order. First, the length of the list. When a product has a lot of ingredients, it is likely to contain additives such as preservatives, food coloring, added flavors, stuff like that. Second, you want to look at the ingredients. Everything on that list should be a recognizable food item. You should be able to look at that word and say, I know what food that is. If it is not, it is very likely that it's a processed food or chemical additive. For example, think about a can of vegetable soup. If you're making that soup at home, what are you putting in it? Maybe some pasta, maybe some broth, carrots, celeries, other veggies. If you see other ingredients on the package of soup, that vegetable soup you see in the store that you could have made at home that you don't recognize, such as hydrolyzed corn protein or autolyzed yeast, you wouldn't put those in your soup at home, so don't get that can of soup. Number 3 is the order of ingredients. The ingredients are listed in order from the greatest to least amount. Make sure you pay attention to added sweeteners, sugars, fats, refined grains, and chemical additives. These all might be lower on the list of ingredients, but if you combine them all together, it could be the #1 ingredient in the food. Food companies often try and trick you by putting all their added sugars under different names, such as corn syrup, cornstarch, oat flour, etc. An example is that cereals do this a lot. So make sure you check those ingredients. #4, look for fats. Like we talked about before, look for anything that says partially hydrogenated. This means that there is trans fat in that food. Even if the trans fat on the nutrition label is 0 grams, there could still be trans fat in the food. There can be up to 0.5 grams of trans fat in a food product before it is required to be on the label. So make sure you look for partially hydrogenated. #5 is refined grains. A product can be listed as whole grain or whole wheat, even if it's not. So make sure you're looking for products that list 100% whole grain on the label. A common example of this is wheat bread. It might say wheat bread, might say whole grain bread, even if it's not. So make sure you're checking on the back for something that says 100% whole grain. And finally, chemical additives. They're used to enhance flavor, color, or shelf life. So make sure you look out for artificial colors and preservatives, such as sodium nitrates. Most chemical additives haven't actually been tested out to rule out long-term health consequences. So it's better to just avoid them completely. All right. Next, we have the nutrition facts. Now that you've looked at all the ingredients, you can move up to the nutrition facts. First, you're going to want to keep in mind the serving size. Many foods, such as a bag of chips or a soda can, will contain more than 1 serving. If a package has 3 servings listed and you eat it all, you have to multiply the fiber, the fat, the protein, and the calories all by 3. Second is fat. The amount of fat per serving is not as important as the source and the quality of fat. So for example, a tablespoon of butter has 11 grams of fat, but 7 grams of that fat is saturated. That's the fat that you want to limit or avoid. And a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil has 14 grams of fat, but 11 grams of that 14 are monounsaturated, and those are the good fats. You also want to look at carbohydrates and fiber. So if a product lists 3 grams of fiber or more, it is most likely a whole grain. So that's how to avoid those refined carbs, and that those marketing tricks is to look for at least 3 grams of fiber. Also, whole grains typically have more protein, 4 or more grams per serving. In terms of protein, you want to aim for 20 to 30 grams per meal. You want to look at vitamins and minerals, and packaged foods will add vitamins and minerals to their food in order to market them as having a higher nutritional value, but don't be fooled, because some of these products can still be really high in sugar, trans fat, and refined carbs. And lastly, make sure you take a look at the sodium. The recommendation is 2,300 milligrams per day, which is equal to 1 teaspoon of table salt. That's it. Excess sodium can contribute to high blood pressure, CVD, and kidney disease. And salt is very high in foods like canned vegetables, canned beans, canned soups, things like that. So to put your knowledge to the test a little bit, I have included 2 different food labels, both for peanut butter. And you want to take a look at these, and I just want to know which one you would choose. So you can stop the video and think about it, and we will go over which is better. So if you look at the ingredients, you can see that peanut butter #1 has peanuts, sugar, and a blend of 3 highly processed, poor quality hydrogenated oils. Label #2 has roasted peanuts and salt. You might not be able to catch this if you just looked at the front of the jar. So peanut butter for me was an easy switch to make. Once I learned this, I just looked at the ingredients list and started buying peanut butter with peanuts and salt and nothing else in it. All right. We are transitioning now to the next topic, which is a whole foods plant-based diet. This is just a quick beginner's guide to get you to eat more fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and all those good things. So, what is a whole foods plant-based diet? What this book is pretty much based upon. It is a diet consisting of minimally processed vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. There are many benefits. Many of the world's leading causes of death, such as heart disease, obesity, and cancer, can be prevented by consuming a whole foods plant-based diet. There are many other benefits, and these include more energy, lower cholesterol and blood pressure, preserved eyesight, stronger, healthier bones, a decreased need for other medications and other drugs, and a lower risk of Alzheimer's disease. So, numerous benefits. How do we start transitioning towards a whole foods plant-based diet? You have to learn to eat smarter. And here I have listed 7 foods and drinks that you want to eat or drink a lot of. Obviously, we have your fruits and your vegetables, also legumes, whole grains, like we just talked about, not refined grains, not refined carbs, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and you want to drink plenty of water. On the other hand, we have things to limit or avoid, and those include sugary drinks, processed meat, processed snacks, cakes, pastries, sweets, packaged baked goods, dairy, red meat, and poultry. And like I said before, a lot of people think you need to have dairy because it has calcium and all those vitamins and minerals, but you can get those from vegetables and other plant-based foods. So you don't need any dairy. All right, after that quick little detour to a whole foods plant-based diet, we're going to talk about strategies for healthy digestion. So, digestion is very heavily influenced by the state of mind and the environment we are in while eating. Take a minute and think, have you ever eaten a food or a meal while you were in the car, talking on the phone, working at a desk, on the internet, on your cell phone, on social media, watching TV, while in a hurry out the door, running around? All these activities have the potential to affect your digestion in a negative way, but who hasn't done one of these things? So I'm going to show you how to avoid these situations. First, when we eat in a stress state, our digestive processes are slowed or stopped. And as you can see, there is the parasympathetic and sympathetic state. The parasympathetic state is that rest or digest mode. It's a calm, low stress environment with limited stimulation. Digestion improves in this state, and we are more likely to notice when we're full in this state. However, most Americans tend to consume food while in a sympathetic state. This is your fight or flight mode. And this is what happens while we eat while rushing to work, dealing with stress, or watching negative news on the television. Our heartbeat starts to accelerate. It slows our intestinal movement, slows the release of digestive enzymes. It can create indigestion, and it increases blood glucose. So like I said, in today's world, many people are in just this constant state of stress, and it leads to a chronic sympathetic state. And this negatively impacts our digestion. Some strategies to help put us in that parasympathetic state when we eat are to turn off all electronic devices, including televisions, phones, tablets, laptops. Turn them all off during meals. You also want to take time to put food on the plate and find a comfortable place to eat. Don't eat at your work desk. Find a table, find some place that is not associated with the work that you're doing. Another really powerful way to create a sympathetic state, I do this before every time I eat now, and it's made a huge difference, is to take 10 slow, deep breaths before beginning to eat. This is when you inhale for 5 seconds, hold your breath for a second, and then exhale for 5 seconds, and then hold, and then repeat. You'll notice that, I just did a little bit of one right there, you'll notice that your heart rate will slow down and it'll put you in a parasympathetic state. Additionally, you can put the fork down between bites and focus on chewing, limit your fluid intake during meals, and just in general, practice mindful eating. This is avoiding multitasking. Just sit and eat. Savor your food, take note of how you feel, give yourself time to let your stomach tell your mind that it's full. And while it is important to be in a parasympathetic state, sometimes we feel indigestion, we feel bloating. And in that case, these are just some things that you could try. Some spices, lemon, apple cider vinegar. These are all known to soothe the digestive tract and help you if you are bloated or indigested after you have meals. All right. Next, we are going to move on to some healthy habits. We're going to talk about breakfast, drinking water, sleep, and more. So first, we will talk about the benefits of breakfast. The word breakfast is literally a compound, meaning breaking a fast. It is the end of a fast from the night before. If we don't eat when we wake up, the fast is lengthened, and this leads to a lot of negative side effects. So try to wake up and eat within an hour of getting out of bed, waking up. This will kickstart your metabolism and give your body fuel for the day. If food is not eaten, that 10 to 12 hour fast that your body has been in only lengthens. And this is accompanied by fatigue, mood changes, and headaches. So in order to reap the benefits of breakfast, you got to break that fast and you got to avoid late night snacking because you want to enter that fast. Some benefits of breakfast include successful maintenance of weight loss, increased focus, decreased stress, better work performance, improved mood, longer life. Yes, I know, exciting. And then decreased risk of heart disease and developing diabetes. However, I know that there's some people out there that just don't like breakfast. They don't like breakfast foods. They don't like eating in the morning. Here are some tips for non-breakfast eaters. First, go to bed 15 minutes earlier and wake up 15 minutes earlier in the morning. Simple trick, but can allow you to get a little bit of time to have a snack or breakfast. Another strategy is to make extra dinner the night before and package it up as leftovers for the next morning. A big way to help yourself in the morning is to meal prep. So make a bunch of oatmeal or little breakfast sandwiches and divide them into enough servings to get you through the week. So, but just in general, remember that eating something is better than eating nothing. So if you can only grab a handful of nuts or a piece of fruit, at least do yourself that. Next, we'll move on to water and sleep. Up until now, we've strictly talked about food. However, a healthy life is built on the combination of healthy habits that will complement the healthy food choices we've been discussing. Water helps the body hydrate, detoxify, maintain alertness, regulate body temperature, and protect our joints and organs. The body's made up of 60 to 70% of water, so it's important that we are continuously hydrating ourselves throughout the day. Fatigue, mental fogginess, headaches, and dry skin can often be solved by just drinking more water. How much should you be drinking? Well, it's about half of your weight measured in pounds in ounces every day. So again, if you weigh 150 pounds, you would aim for 75 ounces per day. On the other hand, another important lifestyle habit is proper sleep. Up to 30% of the US population suffers from insomnia, which is difficulty initiating or maintaining sleep. Sleep helps the body recover from the stress of the day and it fights infections. Adults need 7 to 9 hours, which they often get much less than that number, and kids need 10 to 14. If you are having problems with sleeping, there's a lot of problems associated with lack of sleeping. These include an increase in the hormone ghrelin, which increases the desire for sweet carbohydrates. So if you sleep less, your body is going to want to eat more, and that makes it hard to maintain or lose weight. It also increases the stress hormone cortisol, which impacts blood sugar and can lead to insulin resistance and weight gain. Some tips for better sleep. Create a routine around sleep and wake cycles. So go to sleep and wake up at the same time every day. Sleep in a dark room. Avoid all caffeine after noon because the effects of caffeine can last up to 20 hours in some people. This includes sodas, energy drinks, caffeinated teas. Avoid alcohol. You may think it's easier to fall asleep when you drink, but while it may be easier to fall asleep, you won't be able to stay asleep. And don't eat, drink, or work in bed. You want to have a strong mental association between sleep and your bed, so don't do anything else in it. Lastly, we're going to talk about breathing and movement. In order to decrease your stress, you want to focus on deep quality breaths. This reduces stress and supports healthy blood pressure. I included some directions for diaphragmatic breathing. I'm not going to go through them, but feel free to pause the video or look through and do these on your own. We also have the importance of movement, which can't be understated. It is critical that we make a habit of daily moving. It's critical for our well-being because our society is fighting a sitting disease. Many adults sit at work all day, kids sit at school all day, technology encourages us to never leave our house. Long periods of physical inactivity rather than just not exercising raise the risk of developing chronic diseases. And the people most at risk for these diseases are people that sit for 8 or more hours a day. How do we combat this physical inactivity? These are a bunch of different ways. So a couple examples I'll go through is setting a reminder to get up and move every 45 to 60 minutes, stand instead of sitting, walk up the stairs instead of the elevator, park at the back of a parking lot, carry groceries, etc. And our last topic for the day is eating on the go and grocery shopping. So healthy eating on the go. The problem with fast foods on the go is that they tend to be higher in calories, with more than 50% of these calories coming from unsaturated and trans fats. And fast food is very energy dense. It is low in nutrients such as iron, calcium, riboflavin, vitamins, and it's difficult to remain in a parasympathetic state while you're eating on the go, which leads to digestive stress, as we talked about. However, we can't always avoid fast foods. So in order to make the best out of fast foods, try to seek out whole grains and legumes. Look for a salad bar. Some fast food restaurants offer brown rice instead of white rice. They offer refried beans or black beans. Additionally, drink water with your meal and not soda. Avoid all sodas, juices, and unsweetened teas. This is one of the best decisions to make while eating out at a restaurant. If you really need something added to your water, ask for some lemon. You also want to limit the condiments such as mayo, ketchup, creams, and dips because they often contain a lot of high fructose corn syrup and unhealthy fats. Some other suggestions are to slow down while you eat, avoid supersized foods, and don't be shy. Ask for the ingredients list. It's important to know what you're eating. And lastly, you want to limit or avoid saturated fats found in sausages, bacon, and other ready-made meats. A couple other tips: don't add salt to your food because normally they already have a lot of salt on them, and don't skip meals because that increases your craving for that quick sugary or salty food. Some general grocery shopping tips when you are able to grocery shop instead of fast foods are: don't go to the grocery store hungry. When you shop hungry, you're more likely to make impulse buys and purchase unhealthy foods. Always make a list before going shopping. The list the meals to be made and the most important items. Start purchasing from unprocessed, whole food, plant-based options. When healthy products you use are on sale, buy them, and buy in bulk when you can. Common dry bulk items that people buy are whole grains, such as bread, because you can put it in the freezer. You can get flour, herbs, spices, and raw nuts. They're generally cheaper anyway, and you buy them in bulk. Now I just want to go over quickly the top 5 superfoods to have in every cart when you go to the grocery store. We've talked about vegetables, dark leafy greens, most important nutrient dense food. Again, spinach, kale, collards, squash, your cruciferous vegetables like cabbage and Brussels sprouts and broccoli, beets, garlic, onions. You also want to have your fruits, healthy fats, beans, legumes, and some fermented foods, um, such as tofu, miso, plant-based milks. And quickly, I want to go over what a couple of those look like, because when I started reading about these foods that I should be putting in my cart, I'd never heard of some of them, such as bok choy or miso or collards. I didn't know what they looked like. So this will help you put an image to some of the foods that I've been going over. So as you can see what some of these look like, and you'll be able to pick them out next time you go to the grocery store. And lastly, we do have those foods that we want to limit or avoid. These are excess added sugars and artificial sweeteners, anything with too much high fructose corn syrup, soda, juices, condiments, refined carbohydrates. This is the ingredient that sneaks up in most foods. Again, like we talked about earlier, it is when the bran and the germ, which are the most nutritious parts of a whole grain, are removed. So if you see things that say enriched wheat flour, white rice, white bread, fruit juice, corn syrup, these are all words indicating refined carbs. You also want to look out for trans fats and partially hydrogenated oils. Remember, even if it says 0 grams of trans fat, there can be up to 0.5 grams of trans fat in a food before it needs to be listed on the food label. There's no safe amount of trans fat. So just avoid it at all costs. Check for it. It's an easy check, partially hydrogenated oils. And lastly, make sure to limit those omega-6 fatty acids. Americans overconsume these. They're in processed oils and a lot of animal products. They're in a lot of canned soups, frozen dinners, boxed food, pre-made sauces, salad dressings. So instead, try and consume more omega-3s that are in the chia seeds, the walnuts, the flax seeds, etc. And I just wanted to include, to end this presentation, every year there is a list that goes out of the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. The Dirty Dozen is foods that have a high amount of pesticide residue on fresh produce. A lot of people are curious as to what they need to buy organic, because organic food is typically a little more on the expensive side. So if you're looking to buy anything organic, you want to buy from the Dirty Dozen. And things that you don't need to buy organically are on the Clean 15. These have the lowest amount of pesticide residue on fresh produce. So you don't need to buy these organically. So you can take a look at this list. Finally, we obviously can't eat 100% healthy and avoid fast food all the time. However, every day we are faced with choices that can improve or hurt our health. It's never too late to start changing your choices. Oh, that's my computer battery. Sorry about that. Good thing we're almost done. Plant-based and whole foods are proven to decrease the risk of chronic diseases. So, as I end this presentation, I will leave you with one question. What changes are you going to make starting today? How are you going to improve your diet? And that is it. Thank you.